I was always good with math, codes, puzzles, you name it, but
I just feel like I never got to be a part of the world. I found this flaw.
there's a loophole that the lottery didn't see. It's right here in the math.
I don't know what this says. It looks like the numbers a crazy man drew in a cell wall.
I cannot believe you are my accountant.
So I liked that this movie was, it's funny and it has like a risk element to it. How do you feel like your characters kind of thought, yeah, let's just take the risk. Let's do this thing?
Yeah, that was the fun of it. That especially for Marge, I think Jerry is the math whiz, and Marge. By the time this happened, they'd raised 6 kids. They were retired, and she's a woman who takes care of her house, takes care of her family. I don't think they've ever been big travelers or adventure seekers. So the fact that this presented itself, and then Marge kind of jumped in, and they had a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun doing it together, going to Massachusetts, buying the tickets, sitting in a hotel room for days and days and days, and going through all of the tickets. Because by the end, they were buying $500,000 worth of tickets. It took days and days but she loved that. She loved going through them, and finding the winning tickets. And then, of course, they were also getting about 50 cents on the dollar. I think the investment ended up being about 50% by the end. Because they were betting so much. Not cheating though.
Yeah. When you guys came across the script, what did you think about it?
Well, it's fantastical. It's the underdog story. It's part of a wish fulfillment that a lot of people have. And the question at a dinner party, what would you do if you won the lottery? And, I don't know. For them, it was just an affirmation for their solid marriage. And it was an adventure for them in their senior years. And so it was just fun. They didn't have an idea or a desire to achieve monetary, goals. It was just the adventure. However that came, however much money came with it, that's fine. If it wasn't as much, that's fine too. And what they did with their money, they bought a new truck. They set up college funds for their grandchildren. That's about it. They live in the same house that they did when they started this.
It was such a great message because it was all about, giving. And even your character, Bryan, had to do, he was giving to his son, even though his son was a little reluctant. And, I loved that that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to help the community. So can you talk a little bit more about, helping the community and helping people?
Well, yeah, this is a very small town, 1,900 people in Everett, Michigan, one traffic light. So they know everybody. And they pretty much opened it up to anyone who wanted to be a part of this. $500 a share would be a member of the group. And by doing that, it raised everyone's hopes and dreams, even incrementally, if they won a little bit. So it improved visually and emotionally the outlook of the town of Everett itself. You have a little extra money, I think I'll paint my house. I think I'll plant some flowers. I think I'll, everything and your mood is different when you have a little financial security behind you. So everything just kind of lifted in that little town.
Jerry took us on a drive when we went to visit Everett, and as we were driving around, I remember one time he pointed and he said, "Oh, that guy, he was able to put his kids through college." Wow. So it was that kind of a thing that they were all doing. They weren't hiding. It was done in the open, and because it was in Massachusetts, they had to drive there every 3 weeks. But the Massachusetts lottery let it keep going because everybody was benefiting. There was so much money being put into the lottery, and by the end, there were other groups who'd also figured out the flaw in the system, who were also getting together in groups and putting in a lot of money. So it was sort of like everybody was benefiting.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a good message. Like, it was such a wholesome movie about giving, and it showed a great family, and it showed another thing that I liked is that their marriage, like they were working on their marriage after being married for so many years. So there's some really nice elements there.
Yeah. And we're in in a world now, a new world order of restrictive behavior and seclusion from each other, and this was a film that went on the other side of that to say, oh, let's come together, let's have an experience, and let's have some fun and community. It created community and strengthened it.
I specifically really liked your character because, he's the sarcastic one. He's like the one, so talk more about that.
Oh, sure. So Steve Wood, who is Jerry's CPA in this movie, where, Jerry March has saved some money and everything. And I'm really kind of a part-time CPA at this point because it's a real small town. I've got we've got 6 clients or whatever. And that's a stretch. So I'm a part-time travel agent as well. Jerry comes in with these wild ideas about the lotto. It's like, let me tell you something. You're living in a small town. You shouldn't be putting your money anywhere. Trust me on this. I may not know math like but I do know money a little better than you. So I love that. I love his point of view too, where he's coming from that direction.
But your character isn't, he's not shying away from the adventure or the risk of it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of fun that, one of the themes is to take a risk, especially, when life is just doing the mundane thing. It's like, why not take a risk?
Exactly. I think the character Marge kind of embodies that too, where Jerry thinks she's going to be down and she's like, are you kidding it? Are you kidding? Let's go for this, And my character, Steve, actually his backstory, his wife had died. He was like a widower or whatever it's called. And, he was kind of down and he was already kind of a negative, kind of pessimistic guy anyway. So I think this kind of was an opportunity for him to kind of be a little freer and, have a little more fun in his life. I really like that part of what they wrote for that character,
But it's nice to think the movie has, a little bit more depth to it because it's saying, we're giving to this town that's not doing very well. And we're, helping with the town and kind of talk about your perspective on that element of that little moral kind of.
Sure. No, I love that part of it because it wasn't just a person who's motivated by greed. I'm going to win money and that type of thing. Jerry was motivated by the puzzle. He had to figure this out and he wouldn't rest till he did. And the second part of it is when you live in a small town like that, everybody knows each other. You're kind of like family. And of course he wants to help out his family. It makes you feel so good. You want to be in a town like that, with, on the lotto side, on the lottery winning side of it, of course, and the fact that it was so inspirational when I read that part of it that meant so much to him to want to help everybody out. I thought that was great.
You're right. I mean, it is kind of this cute town that I live in LA. You probably are in LA County also. It's like, we live in such a huge place. You just want the community, right? Yeah. And this movie does show a community that's really, coming together. And so that
Absolutely.
is good.
Yeah, it kind of speaks to us now. I think because of the pandemic, we're all connected in a certain way that it's kind of an unfortunate way where we're all connected of this kind of, this kind of malaise and this feeling. And I think we were all looking for something we could win with, and just feel better about ourselves with and that type of thing. And I think the movie speaks on that level as well.
Now you are doing stuff constantly. So what is it when you see a project you like? What is it usually that hooks you? Or maybe when you're reading this script, what was it that hooked you?
Well, something like this, because I'm asked to be an actor and I go, do I have the time to do it? Do I have the window? Because I'm like, I absolutely want to do this. So I make sure I can clear everything around it and just, set aside that time. And thank God I was able to do that because I love projects like this. It's rare when you get a chance to work with, first of all, not only a cast like this, but David Franco, the director, who's fantastic. And a movie like this in his capable hands, you're going to have a lot of fun and it's going to be good. Yeah. So I love finding things like this.
It really does feel like we're robbing a bank.
Nah, this is going to be more fun.